Hi everyone, welcome to Live Interactive English. I'm Mike.
And I'm Sam.
And Sam, you're hungry?
Yeah, I'm about to eat this pudding. I'm super excited.
We're getting ready to film, but we have a few minutes. It's a small pudding you have there. Now, is that pudding your pudding or is that pudding your snack?
It's pudding.
Yeah, right. But are you having it as pudding? Is the pudding pudding or is the pudding a snack? Is it pudding pudding or snack pudding?
I don't even know. I mean, it's just pudding. I don't.
Are you having it as pudding like a sweet, like a dessert after your meal that you just finished, or is it just like I'm in the middle of the day, I feel like a snack, I'll have a pudding instead of a pudding, but a snack. But a pudding for your snack, not your pudding.
I think it's a snack pudding, but it's pudding.
Snack pudding. Oh, so you couldn't have that snack pudding as pudding. The snack pudding
this
is only,
conversation is so confusing.
That snack pudding is only a snack pudding, not a pudding pudding.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm using the British term pudding for like dessert. Like after a meal, you might have a piece of cake or a piece of pie, some pudding as your pudding, as your dessert. Or you could have a piece of cake, a piece of pie, or a pudding as a snack, but not as a pudding, which is a dessert. But the pudding could still be a snack because it's a pudding.
Oh boy.
Does that make sense?
I don't know.
I think the article will help us.
Okay.
Help everyone, hopefully.
I need some help for
so
this
let's
one.
check it out. You enjoy your snack pudding, but not pudding pudding.
Okay.
Okay.
You're at a restaurant in Britain. After flipping through the menu, you order a black pudding. Imagine your surprise when, instead of a sweet treat, you get a sausage made from the blood of a cow. Fortunately, this misunderstanding can be avoided by knowing the different ways in which British and American English speakers use the word pudding. In Britain, a pudding is generally any type of sweet dish served after a meal. Things like ice cream, chocolate cake, and even cookies would all be considered pudding. In America, this sort of dish is simply called dessert. Pudding, for Americans, refers to a particular type of dessert that's sweet and has a creamy texture, similar to that of custard. Chocolate pudding is a popular American example of this.
So yes, we're going to be learning all about pudding, and not just the dessert or the snack or the treat, but the word pudding actually has a really interesting life, I guess you could say. In America, it's basically what you were eating, that kind of sweet, eggy dessert.
Yes.
Right? And
which is why I was so confused why you kept asking me, is it a pudding?
I should have explained, because in Britain, not only is it the sweet dessert, it can mean actually several other things that are quite different. So we're doing one of those things where we show the differences between British and American English to help you guys not get confused, because it can be very confusing. So let's check out the article. It says, you're at a restaurant in Britain. So we're sort of creating a situation you can imagine yourself in. Imagine this is happening. All right, you're at a restaurant in Britain. After flipping through the menu, you order a black pudding. Oh yeah, that would be a big mistake.
Why? It seems like it might just be chocolate pudding.
Imagine your surprise when instead of a sweet treat like dark chocolate pudding, which would make sense, instead, you get a sausage made from the blood of a cow.
What?
Yeah, it's blood and it's sausage and it's not eggy, it's not sweet. You do not want to have it for dessert or as a snack.
No, not at all.
No.
I think I would be quite shocked. That would be a very, very big surprise to have.
Many people have been shocked by the blood pudding or the black pudding.
Yeah, I mean, because even the name is not super clear. Black pudding. Again, I think I would guess chocolate first. But we have this word sausage, so it's something with sausage in the pudding and all that. Anyway, but sausage, this word is, it means a kind of like you use the casing of the insides of an animal, which is kind of yucky, but we do it a lot. And then you put in other types of meat. It could be ground meat. It could be I think in a lot of sausages, it could be beef, it could be chicken, it could be pork, and it's all mixed together and inside of a casing. So it's a food that's in a casing, and it's got a lot of different other types of meat kind of smashed inside of it. Very similar to like a hot dog. A lot of times sausage and hot dog can be used interchangeably. I think a hot dog is a sausage, but a sausage is not necessarily a hot dog. It's like one of those.
I guess the sausage is the meat part. The hot dog is both the bread and the meat.
Yeah.
Right, but it's a meat stick.
Yeah, and so we have this example sentence that says, Chuck bought 2 packs of sausages for the barbecue. A very normal place to see sausages is at a barbecue.
Absolutely.
And so let's continue on and see what else can we learn about pudding. So we have, fortunately, this misunderstanding can be avoided by knowing the different ways in which British and American English speakers use the word pudding.
And there are some big differences in the way that they use this word pudding on both sides of the Atlantic. It says in Britain, a pudding is generally any type of sweet dish served after a meal. A sweet dish served after a meal. This kind of sounds like what we would call dessert, right?
Yes.
Well, that's exactly what we're talking about. Things like ice cream, chocolate cake, and even cookies would all be considered pudding. Although there's no egg, you don't eat it with a spoon. It's a cookie, it's a piece of pie, it's a piece of cake. But the point is, it's dessert, or in Britain, it's pudding.
Yes, so very different than how we talk about dessert and pudding and all that kind of stuff in America, where if we look at the article, it says, in America, this sort of dish is simply called dessert. Pudding, for Americans, refers to a particular type of dessert that's sweet and has a creamy texture, similar to that of custard. Chocolate pudding is a popular American example of this.
Aha, so there you go. Your pudding can be your pudding and it can also be your dessert. But an American parent might say if you don't eat your meat, you can't have any dessert. Whereas a British parent would say if you don't eat your meat, you can't have any pudding, which could be anything sweet, like dessert.
Although it's
kind of clear.
Yeah, I guess, but would that black pudding be sweet?
No, it's not sweet at all.
Yeah.
And you don't eat it for pudding.
Oh, boy.
You eat it with breakfast.
Oh my gosh, then there must be more to learn about these two words.
It gets worse, absolutely. There's a lot more to it. So we're going to take a break and then we're going to get back to the sweet stuff, pudding or sweets or dessert. We'll be back.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。这2天的课程是关于 pudding 布丁。说到布丁啊，同学们可能会马上想到超市啊、便利商店就买得到那一种口感滑顺的布丁，小朋友的最爱。好，那课文一开始要我们假设说自己在英国的一间餐厅里面，然后你点了一份黑布丁 （black pudding）， 然后你就想象一下，当你拿到的时候是一条牛血制成的香肠，而不是一份甜点，你会有多么的惊讶，多么的困惑啊！原来在英式英语和美式英语里面 pudding 的用法大不同哦。先补充一下，老师们刚刚用到2个形容词，一个是 confusing 是拼作 confusing， 它是形容令人困惑的，还有 shocked。shocked， 它是形容感到惊讶的、感到震惊的。那么单字 sausage 就是香肠。CM 老师刚刚提到制作香肠所用的那种肠衣叫做 casing， casing。好，那还有提到 ground meat 就是绞肉，我们说把绞肉塞进肠衣嘛。好，那么课文写到说，在英国啊 ，pudding 它一般是指任何一种餐后所供应的甜食，可能像是冰淇淋啊、巧克力蛋糕啊，甚至是饼干。所以其实这个字就像美式英语说的 dessert 甜点。而在美国 ，pudding 就是指一种特定类型的甜点，这个味道是甜的，口感像奶油一般滑顺，类似卡士达的口感。那这就是我们比较熟知的那一种布丁咯。好，这边3个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，那我们来看第一个重点是 imagine， 它表示想象、设想，后面可以接名词，或者是接 that 或 WH 疑问词所引导的名词子句。举例来说 Imagine a world without war. 想象一个没有战争的世界，我们都希望有这样的世界，对不对？好，下一个重点是 instead of， 它表示没有什么什么，而不是什么什么。那它是片语介系词，后面要接名词或动名词。那这个名词或动名词就是被替代、被取代的东西哦。举例来说 ，They went camping instead of staying in hotels. 他们去露营，而不是住旅馆。好，下一个重点是 be made from something， 它是表达由什么制成，是用来指说制造过程它经过化学变化，或者是它本质产生的改变，而没办法从物品看出制造原料的时候。举例来说 ，cheese is made from milk，cheese 是由奶类制成的。那也补充一下 ，be made of something 则是用在当成品的本质没有变，你还看得出原料的时候。举例来说 ，The coffee table is made of wood。这张咖啡桌是木质的。好，那我们接着回到课文中。
In addition to desserts, the British use the word pudding to refer to a specific kind of dish. This usage refers to a sweet or savory dish that's steamed or boiled in another object, such as a bowl or piece of cloth. Under this second definition, the variety of foods that would be classified as a pudding is vast. Famous examples include dishes like black pudding, rice pudding, and steak and kidney pudding, which is beef steak and ox kidney cooked in a pastry.
Okay, so welcome back. As we can see, there must be a lot of differences about the word pudding in Britain and in America. And so I'm still a little confused. So I think let's just go ahead and jump back into the reading and see what is the difference. So we have, in addition to desserts, the British use the word pudding to refer to a specific kind of dish. This usage refers to a sweet or savory dish that's steamed or boiled in another object, such as a bowl or piece of cloth.
I'm more confused now.
I think me too.
Okay. So pudding in America is an eggy, sweet thing you eat for dessert. In Britain, pudding could be just dessert as a part of your meal, anything sweet. But pudding can also be something sweet or savory.
Yeah, now, which savory, must be like that black pudding.
Right, exactly, because savory kind of means salty, meaty, not sweet, not dessert. You would never say chocolate cake is savory. You would say a hamburger or a steak or, you know, bacon is savory, okay? And then it's also the way you cook it makes it a pudding. You put it in something like a bowl or a piece of cloth.
And steam it.
And steam it. And it could be sweet or it could be savory, salty. This is very confusing. So here we were learning that some puddings can be steamed. Now we're using steam as a verb, which might be kind of new to you. You might know steam as a noun for that kind of, it's not smoke, but it kind of looks like so. It's hot water that comes off your hot bowl of soup or your hot cup of tea. That kind of cloud is steam. Now when we cook with steam, using that really hot, watery air to cook things, like we cook steamed vegetables, steamed fish, both of those are very healthy ways, and of course xiaolongbao, those dumplings that are steamed in the special containers. We're cooking with steam, we are steaming things. For example, she steamed the vegetables and served them with some brown rice. That sounds very healthy.
Sounds very healthy.
Yes, so get back to the second version of the British pudding. Under this second definition, the variety of foods that would be classified as a pudding is vast. So we're not talking about a special way to make a certain kind of food. This is many kinds of food, but cooked in a certain way, but also anything really could fall under the definition of pudding in this case.
Because now we have these different definitions of like, okay, when you eat it, it could be a pudding, and how you cook it could be a pudding, and it could be sweet, and it could be savoring. And so as we can see, this word pudding has many different definitions. And so this word definition, it's a noun, and it's just the meaning of the word. And so like, for example, if you look up a word in a dictionary, you'll see the word, and then you'll see the explanation of that word. that explanation is the definition. And so this comes from the verb define. So when you define define a word, then that is the definition of the word. And so we have an example sentence here that says, Patrick's definition of happiness is sharing a meal with close family and good friends. So as you can see in this sentence, it's not actually the dictionary definition of the word, it's his personal definition of the word. So this word can be used in a couple different ways, but it means still the meaning of that word to somebody or to the world or to the dictionary. Just the meaning of that word.
Exactly. On a personal way, like with Patrick, it's kind of like the best example or his favorite example of something. But you're right, a definition of something, especially a food, especially in different parts of the world, it can change. And it often comes down to what people in the culture think, how they classify that type of food. And when we classify things, basically we put them into groups. We have a bunch of different things. They're different in some ways, they're the same in some ways, but it's really hard to kind of get an idea of what's going on and what some of the differences are. So you start putting them in groups. You classify them. We do this with animals, of course, animals that fly, animals that swim, animals that walk on the ground, animals that have warm blood, animals that have cold blood. Scientists classify things all the time because, like in many other parts of life, when you classify things, you put them in groups, you make them easier to understand. For example, in the study, the scientists classified people by age, not by height, not by weight, not by where they're from, but how old they are.
Good, okay. So this word, we use this quite a lot. And in this case, as you can see, we are seeing many different classifications of pudding because we're trying to figure out what is this word in different parts of the world.
Right, but there's so many different types.
Yes, and so then we had this word vast. There's a vast amount of different types of pudding. And so vast means a very, very large number. In this case, it can also just mean a very big area, because you could say the ocean is very vast. But you also can say that there is a vast number of puddings, as we are finding out now. Or you could say, in our example sentence, the city is surrounded by vast stretches of desert. Wow. So again, that would be a large area of something versus in our actual article where it's many different types of that.
Absolutely. Timbuktu is a city surrounded by vast areas of desert, and I just like to say the word Timbuktu.
It is kind of a
Back
fun word.
to our article. So let's look at some of these types of puddings that British people would classify as pudding. Most Americans would not. But it says famous examples include dishes like black pudding. That's the one we met earlier. It's kind of a sausage made of blood. Rice pudding, that's something sweet you might even eat for breakfast. And steak and kidney pudding. That's not sweet, it's a pie, and you'd eat it for lunch or dinner.
No.
Steak and kidney pudding, which is beef steak and ox kidney cooked in a pastry. It's kind of a pie.
Yeah, I was going to say, so it really is it's a meat pie.
But they're all called puddings, and then there's plum puddings and Christmas puddings and Yorkshire puddings, and they're all different. And you eat them at all different times of the year, at different parts of the meal. They're cooked in different ways, but for British people, they're all pudding. It's confusing, isn't it?
It's really confusing.
And don't forget, pudding can also just be dessert.
Yeah, see, okay, I'm glad we're going through this, because if I ever go to Europe or go to Britain, I kind of will need to know that
it's true.
This different definition of pudding, or I'm going to be so confused and I'm going to order the wrong thing.
As a tourist, if a British person says, "Would you like some pudding?" your first answer is like, what do you mean by pudding?
What exactly is the pudding? Then I will answer that question.
I want to see pictures. Let's wrap it up for today, but we're going to have much more about pudding because this is an obviously complicated topic. So we'll see you back here tomorrow for some pudding, but we don't know what kind.
接着我们来看看英国第二种版本的 pudding。英国人呢还会用 pudding 这个字来指一种特定的菜。那这个用法呢是指 放在另一个物体里面蒸过或是煮过的菜，它可以是甜的，可以是咸的。那用来蒸煮的那个物体呢，有可能是碗或是一块布等等。而在这样的定义下，会被归类为 pudding 的食物种类就非常广泛咯。著名的例子就包括 black pudding 黑布丁，我们一开始讲的那一种，它就是血肠；还有 rice pudding 米布丁；还有 steak and kidney pudding 牛排与腰子布丁。哇，这是把牛排肉跟牛腰子放在派皮里面去烹煮而成的菜色。那这样说起来，我们那种碗粿啊、当阿米糕、蒸蛋那些，不就也算是 pudding 吗？好，我们最后来看一下单字 steam。steam 是指蒸煮，它是当动词来用，我们来讲蒸煮食物的那个动作。还有 definition 表示定义。那刚刚 Mike 老师他有提到那个第二个说法、第二个版本的那个定义呢，他用到 version 这个字 version， 那这个字它就表示版本说法。再看到下一个单字 classify 它表示将什么归类，把什么分类。它的名词呢是去 y 加上 ication classification 表示分类归类。再看到 vast 它是形容巨大的、广阔的。好，那么以上是今天的讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
You're at a restaurant in Britain. After flipping through the menu, you order a black pudding. Imagine your surprise when, instead of a sweet treat, you get a sausage made from the blood of a cow. Fortunately, this misunderstanding can be avoided by knowing the different ways in which British and American English speakers use the word pudding. In Britain, a pudding is generally any type of sweet dish served after a meal. Things like ice cream, chocolate cake, and even cookies would all be considered pudding. In America, this sort of dish is simply called dessert. Pudding, for Americans, refers to a particular type of dessert that's sweet and has a creamy texture, similar to that of custard. Chocolate pudding is a popular American example of this. In addition to desserts, the British use the word pudding to refer to a specific kind of dish. This usage refers to a sweet or savory dish that's steamed or boiled in another object, such as a bowl or piece of cloth. Under this second definition, the variety of foods that would be classified as a pudding is vast. Famous examples include dishes like black pudding, rice pudding, and steak and kidney pudding, which is beef steak and ox kidney cooked in a pastry.
Yunshanshui is a fascinating park located in Shoufeng Township, Hualien. The name, Yunshanshui, comes from the beautiful reflection of mountains and trees on the lake surface. It is on private property, but open to the public for free. The park covers about 24 hectares of land and has many palm plants and deciduous cypress trees. The Dream Lake, located in the center of the park, is a great place to walk around. Visitors love to take pictures of the scenic landscape around the park. With its relaxed atmosphere, Yunshanshui is a great place to feel refreshed in Hualien.
See you next time!